Hello and welcome to this HFS videocast supported with WNS. I'm joined by Jitender Mohan, EVP and Business Unit Head of Travel at WNS, and Xabier Zabala, COO of HBX Group. Today we're going to talk about some fresh new data we have from a study we've just released on the travel and hospitality industry and how that industry is challenged today and how they're going to be pivoting to embrace the new frontier of the future. Jitender, if I could ask you to give a quick intro, I'll go over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Very happy to be on this session today. Thanks, Chabi, for joining us. My name is Jitender Mohan. Like Melissa said, I've been part of the industry for 27, almost 28 years now. It feels like yesterday only I started. Customer experience has been part of my journey throughout, whether it was operations, transformation, business side, multiple businesses I've managed. I used to head customer experience at some point of time. So again, very happy to be on the call. It's a great time for all of us to really get into innovative offerings which can be created for improving customer experience. So again, very happy to be on the call today.
Likewise, thanks for joining us. Chubby, over to you for a brief intro, please.
Sure. So thank you for the invitation, first of all, Melissa, and pleasure to be with you here today, Jitender. So I'm Xabier Zabala. I lead operations at HBX Group. For those that maybe don't know the company as much, it's a travel tech business, the leading B2B ecosystem player in the world. And I have been in the company for the last 8 years in different parts of the business, and now I lead operations, which includes the customer experience. And it's a pleasure to be here today talking about the trends and what we see going forwards in this part of the travel and hospitality sector.
Super, Chubby, thank you. And both of my guests contributed to this study that we've recently released to give us contextual, real-life examples of how the travel industry is embracing new normals and looking toward the future. So thank you both for your contributions. And we wanted to hear from them directly today to share a little bit about their experiences as real-life practitioners. But we also wanted to highlight a few of the data points from our study. So let's look at the first one, where we're going to talk a bit about customer expectations. And I think anyone who's in customer experience or any kind of front office customer facing role is acutely aware of changes in expectations across any industry. But travel and hospitality, I believe, is quite unique in terms of how expectations have changed, how new capabilities have brought upon greater expectations from customers. And as you can see from this first data point here, the travel and hospitality leadership that we interviewed for this study find that personalization, and that even greater personalization, is going to be the biggest expectation that's going to influence this sector. And then here again, another element that I think is quite unique perhaps to travel and hospitality that doesn't impact some industries quite as much as this safety and wellness expectation. So there's a lot to rise to the challenge there. Chabi, I'd like to start with you. And can you talk a little bit about how your customers, how you're approaching this with your customers, and how HBX is rising to the challenge that is these increasing expectations?
Sure. I think it's really interesting to see that 2/3 of the respondents would rank personalization either as number one or number two in their ranking. So at HBX, we definitely observe an increase in customer expectations, and more specifically in the service quality expected, in the immediacy of the response expected, and in the personalization expected. And going a bit deeper on this last one on personalization, at HBX, we receive over 5 billion searches every day from our customers. And then we leverage advanced analytics to understand customer preferences and behaviors. But then by analyzing this data, we are able to identify and anticipate customer trends and patterns, and we can tailor some of our services for our customers. So just to give you an example of what this means and what are the things that we are working on, we have just developed a platform portal that we call Insights, where we can provide personalized recommendations to our customers, to each and every one of our travel agency customers, which are based on their individual booking patterns and those of other customers that share common characteristics with them. And then these personalized recommendations can be consumed in our booking engine and across multiple engagement channels. And this hyper personalized surgical approach has generated a very large impact for our customers and for us. And to conclude, I think we are very convinced that customer expectations will only continue increasing and changing, and that continuous innovation in this area is going to be necessary to exceed these ever increasing customer expectations.
Awesome. Sounds like you're really listening to the voice of the customer there and doing your best to deliver personalized services as needed for that insights platform. Um, Jitender, over to you. Uh, what are you hearing from your customers, and are you helping them pivot to become more customer centric and help them create these better personalization efforts?
So what we are hearing, and I think your survey is showing, and all the effort which has gone into this survey, capturing minds of a lot of CXOs, is telling the story that today the shift to personalization and expectation on omni-channel experience is extremely high. Now it's very easy to say that create a seamless process, end-to-end process where everybody should be able to understand who my customer is, but that's where the problem happens. When you have multiple channels to talk to, multiple channels to interact with, processes break down. And the expectation of customers today is to work with transformative partners to create end-to-end journeys where technology, analytics, and process design or redesign, so to say that, can really help them create a very transformative solution. And from WNS perspective, the framework we launched, which is Trevog, is actually in line with exactly doing that, where we look at not just experience, we look at operational efficiency, we look at seamless journey, we look at financial optimization of the process, and end to end ensuring that not just one cycle of purchase. How do you create loyalty and repeat as a critical business outcome when you have to look at customer experience and not just one particular transaction getting into a good experience. Now, some examples just to say what customers are expecting, and maybe I can elaborate this a little bit more, is to say if we have to look at three pillars of directions on customer experience, which are helping organizations or are expected organizations to improve experience. One is analytics, which is pure play looking at the whole extreme level of CRM and data capture which is happening in the industry. Right from surfing, the point Chabi was saying, number of visitors coming on the site, number of shoppers coming on the site, number of transactions happening on the site, number of people who are spending what kind of time, where are they going, how much time are they spending on which line item. And these are some small examples. Now, we recently worked with a hotel chain only, where 80 million non-active customers were sitting in their loyalty network. And, we were able to work on a transformative solution with them to really recover almost 20% of the customers back in building the transactions back.
Thank you. This is a great segue into our next data point. If we can flip to the next slide, because I want to get a little bit more specific into the technology pieces that are coming into play. And you mentioned that end-to-end transformation and some of the bits and pieces of tech that are in your Trevog portfolio. So this data point, it was all around adoption, and then challenges of adoption. So as you can see, there's a varied maturity across each of these technology areas of investment. Maybe not surprisingly, ERP and hybrid seem to be the most mature in terms of active investment and expansion. But as you mentioned, we've got a lot of new technology coming in. I think obviously the big buzzword and big topic of the day is Gen AI, which you can see, well over half of organizations are actually actively investing or strategically investing for trial or at least monitoring, which is going to be a game changer for a lot of industries. And then if you look at the other side of the screen, we've also got challenges, and in particular with Gen AI, what we're hearing from most organizations is that fundamentally data tends to be one of the pillars or hurdles rather that they have to jump over, or something that they really have to understand, get governance around, get security around that data management piece in order to be able to um, capitalize on some of the capabilities of Gen AI. And that talent is not far behind either, as well as just sunk investments. And you've got in the travel industry lots and lots of legacy software and applications behind the scenes. So I want to hear, I'll go back to you, Jitender, on this one. Um, how does this resonate with you? What do you think are the most prevalent and exciting applications of technology that you're able to bring to bear for your customers today?
Yeah, so the first question started both. Let's say start doing the circles of. I think it came like 1 year back or maybe 3 quarters back that when this whole Gen AI is nothing new, and machine learning was always there. Gen AI is only a next level of evolution of that particular technology, or let's say that particular capability. And the fear was that everything will be automated. So how do we quickly get onto this bandwagon and create a application toolkit where everything can be automated? Which obviously I think was misunderstood, if you ask me, even today. See, it is the future is gonna be assisted experience, because all the non-complex work will be automated for sure, which is what was happening in the earlier world anyway through RPA, automation, workflow. I mean, it is not new. Then machine learning came into, which is why the next best action became a big thing. And then with Gen AI, what will happen, and which is what if you see the while there is a urgency and there is an importance, everybody rated almost two-thirds of the respondents said that it is the topmost priority. But look at the right side, the challenge is there. While you have access to all the information, the problem is how do you monetize that access? How do you use that access to create a business insight? And when you start seeing the application of where Gen AI is, actually you'll be surprised. Application is in all fields, right from customer experience to fare auditing to commission to digitization of cargo to refund automation. See, you have to see wherever database is used in the backend, wherever, let's say, compliance kind of environment is, wherever you are using business rules or business compliance sheets, wherever where you are using, let's say, contracts which are in the back end of airlines or even corporate customers, anything which is about reading or referring to multiple levels of information, anything which is about understanding a persona of a customer or a region or a particular transaction, Gen AI is applicable. So right from front office to mid office to back office, there is application. So again, technology deployment is picking up. The survey is also saying there is hunger to do it, and everybody needs each other's help. So it is going to be co-creation for sure. No one organization, no one customer can solve it alone.
Awesome. Yeah, I want to get more into that collaboration piece in our next data point, but I also want to go over to Chabi. And may I add, I saw you recently quoted in the New York Times, Jitender, saying that this is going to be one of the biggest tech disruptions in over the last several years. That was an enlightening piece. Chabi, over to you. I want to hear from your HBX lens how you guys are approaching this and what you see as the opportunities, and I'm sure you see risks and limitations as well. So what are you guys doing? Are you experimenting? Are you looking at short and long term?
Yeah, so probably all of the above. So we are experimenting, but also at the same time we are industrializing quite already robust applications. No? So you need to follow this dual path. I think it's really interesting what we see on screen now, and you were mentioning that over the last 18 months or so, the buzzword has been around Gen AI and the GPTs and so on. And it's very interesting to see that half of the organizations are either strategically or actively investing into this kind of technologies. But it's also very interesting to see that it's the highest proportion of unsure organizations. No, you have 11% of the respondents that are not really clear on what to do about this and how to tackle this. No, and it's surprising that it's the highest of all of them. No, because it's the newest tool that we have now in our toolkit. No, I think artificial intelligence in general has been with us for a while in various shapes and forms. But now, more recently, with the radical explosion of the Gen AI solutions, we are already seeing a transformation in the travel sector as well as in every other sector. And I also believe that this will only accelerate over the next years as those organizations that are today unsure, they move into clear believers on the power of this kind of solutions. No? So at HBX, our approach is to deploy artificial intelligence to address those areas that either generate friction to our customers or employees, that are repetitive and low value, or where AI solutions can execute far better than any human. For instance, where large sets of data must be processed or analyzed. And we do it in a safe environment with supervised solutions, with controlled sources of information that are free of possible external influences that could put the accuracy or the correctness of the information and the system at risk, because we are very aware of those risks that we have also on the right hand side. In the starting in 2024 and then following in 2025, we see many applications for AI and Gen AI. I will just mention some of them. Obviously, customer service is top of our mind. It's probably the area where we are investing most during 2024, because right now there's already very robust applications that can be implemented to understand and respond to customer requests across all channels: voice, chat, text. The second one I will mention is everything related to content. So we are seeing very relevant applications around descriptions, translations, processing of images, detection of duplicates, etc., etc. And the third one I will mention is around the enablement of our teams. So this is where maybe it's more about augmented intelligence rather than artificial intelligence. No? So this concept that Jitender was also mentioning about assisting our teams and making them much more effective in their day-to-day by giving them the new tools that are now available to all of us. No? And finally, building on the risks side, no? We take these risks very seriously, especially the ones related to generative AI. And we advocate for a very controlled and secure implementation of these technologies. And what I mean by that is that we are very aware of the risks related to information accuracy, biases, etc., to intellectual property and ownership, and to the gathering of personal information through these kind of solutions. No? So we focus on very specific use cases where we can resolve or address concrete customer needs, and then constantly monitor and analyze their accuracy and their security.
Excellent. Sounds like you're taking a very thorough approach. Let's go to the last data point. I really want to get into talking about this collaboration and ecosystem to close us out here. So HFS has been evangelizing this Horizons framework, which is really around the 3 steps that organizations need to take in order to modernize and then get to the next level of internal organizational alignment, and finally getting to this next step of ecosystem development, which is collaboration to create new sources of value. And as we asked our respondents where their focus lies across these three parameters, it's what I'd like to draw your attention to is the ecosystem approach growing in the next 2 years. And I think this is to the point that Jitender, you were making in our last data point, which is nobody can do this alone. You're going to need an ecosystem of um, folks to help you. I think in the travel and hospitality space, there's this inherent ecosystem that you need to deal with between regulatory bodies, and if you're an airline, it's the airports and the retail stores within the airport, and there's this whole ecosystem of providers as well. You know, folks who are going to help you create solutions around Gen AI or around whatever enabling technology you're using. But most importantly, it's what sources of value are you creating, and moving beyond, you know, the cost efficiency and optimization, better, faster, cheaper that we've been doing for a long time, to actually where can we open up brand new ways of doing things, ways of doing work, sources of value for customers, for employees, what it may be. So, Chabi, I'll ask you to comment on this. Are you guys developing an ecosystem, and how do you view that in terms of your ability to be competitive in this market? What does it look like today, and what are you aspiring to do with this ecosystem?
Sure. So I think this chart is very telling, no? Because it shows how the sector might be moving from a functional digital transformation focus to an ecosystem play, no? And that resonates very well with the journey that we see at HPX Group, no? Because the global travel industry is, as you said, very competitive, more competitive than ever, and more fast-paced than ever. And to differentiate in this environment and to succeed, it requires a new kind of play, which we believe goes more and more towards this kind of ecosystem play. And to be successful in this strategy, I believe that key actors in the sector will need to have the right technology, the right data, the right expertise to cut through the complexity of that ecosystem model, but also the scale to reach the parts of the world that not everyone can. And it's going to be one of the key recipes for success. In HBX, our ecosystem approach is about delivering fast and reliable access to all of our global network of interconnected products and services, empowering the choice for our partners, while, and this is very important, removing the friction from the end-to-end travel experience and providing a seamless service across all those different products and services. And that's a huge challenge because you are bringing together and pooling a large variety of partners, even subsectors within the travel industry, and then to offer one unique experience to the customers is a huge challenge. But then when you succeed into it, the stickiness of that offering to the partners is what makes you really successful. And finally, talking about partnerships, which you mentioned, we fully believe on the power of collaboration in the sector as a route to having the most effective ecosystem play. And we actively seek strategic partnerships and collaboration opportunities to strengthen our position in the market. We do this for customer service solutions. We do it in our financial services. We do it when we are going into new segments such as the dynamic packaging solutions for our airline partners, etc., etc. But also when we are getting into new products and services such as fintech solutions, insurance, technology solutions, etc. And we partner with industry leaders for this kind of complementary services, which enhances our value propositions, expands our reach in the market, and in the end, it drives mutual growth for us and our partners, which is the end goal.
That's a great example of the collaboration to create a new source of value. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Jitender, will you round us out on this point? Just interested to hear what you see as you're working with your clients and your partner ecosystem. What does that evolving landscape look like to you?
No, I think Chabi very clearly the way what he's seeing as a as HBX Group is very similar to many of the examples we've seen in the industry. So because my exposure to the industry is, let's say, beyond travel because of transformation. So I saw banking getting into travel services many years back, and obviously they are accelerating in that direction. So they're tying up with travel companies to create travel services offering. And similar to what Chabi was saying on on the travel companies creating a fin crime or a fin capability for the industry, which used to be core to banking or financial services companies many years back. There are many examples like that. So to me, it's a very, again, like I said, this is a great inflection point where a lot of things will happen in terms of new things. Now, even the survey, actually, while we can see bars here and there, 68 and 46, but these are just numbers. But it tells you that actually almost 50% of the audience, more or less, is doing both. I mean, they are some are fixing their existing functional processes, some are already in, thinking ahead of creating front, middle, and back office to drive unmatched automation, and some which are 49% or almost 50% on this on the second year journey, which is right today for them, which is maybe 2 years ahead for somebody else. So this is happening as we speak, where all the organizations, including us, working with these organizations, are trying to achieve all of this wherever possible, depending on the maturity of the processes and complexity of the processes, are working together. I can't say one company is behind or one is ahead. Different parts of organizations are at different parts of journey today, and there are many examples, in the ecosystem, how we are working with, let's say, Google, how we are working with AWS, how we are working with startup ecosystem, and trying to solve business problems. Because again, one thing which is going to come out very clearly as you start, maybe you are already seeing that happening, Melissa, when you talk to people, is that Gen AI solution will not be solved by pure conventional players alone, because tech knowledge is only one part of the solution. Understanding domain, understanding the business is the core of making that application successful. And that's where, the knowledge of industry or business comes in. And then third leg of that solution is analytics. So either of one strong company, which used to be a standalone niche offering, will not work. These three knowledges have to come together. Now, whether you bring it in one organization or whether you bring three organizations together, that is going to happen, because the business solution will seek three inputs: analytics, technology, and on top of it, domain knowledge. Because solutions are not going to be bolt on solutions which are easy to do. Easy solutions are done and dusted. Complex business solutions have to be solved now. So that's what I'm seeing, and that's what is the interesting part of the journey now.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. In fact, we have another data point which shows that the greatest skills that tech teams are needing are business, and the greatest skills that business teams are needing are technology. So there's this real, overlap within organizations. This is a fundamentally a human and technology solution that has to come together. Thank you for that. Thank you both for your great insights. This has been a really excellent session, and I think we really just scratched the surface of the great data that we have in this study. So, invite our audience to please take a look at the full data set and our narrative around the future of travel. But I think this session really gave a lot of great um, direct insight, real life practical application around what some of the trends mean for travel now and how to remain competitive in the future. So I thank you very much, Chabi. Thank you, Jitender, for being with me today.
Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Sure.
Pleasure to share this with you, Jitender.
Same here. Thank you.
And thanks to our audience for joining us. Goodbye.